They say that pictures are worth 1,000 words, and they are. When it comes to real estate appraising, I might think something's a Q4, and all of a sudden I look at the pictures and go, oh, no, that's a Q3.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Interesting article recently on Realtor Magazine. Now, from what I understand, this is the official magazine of realtors. Okay, many of us are realtors. I don't know if you knew that, but the definition of a realtor is simply somebody who is a member of the NAR. And so most of us are. But interesting article, asked a question that I think will bring up some good discussion. I want to make sure we can have some discussion on this topic because I'm interested to hear what you think. I want to pause here, remind you we're sponsored by ANOW Software. ANOW, of course, it's how I manage my appraisal office. It's the way that I am able to do so much without worry. It just kind of manages itself. You throw the orders in there and it brings you through the process, and we don't have things turned in late because it just keeps us on our toes and reminds us and sends us emails. And man, it's awesome. anow.com/coach is where you're going to find it. anow.com/coach. All right, folks, there is an interesting article. This is from August of 2018. Okay. And it's in the Realtor Magazine. In fact, August 20th, if you want to look this up. Let me see if I can get you a title so you can search it. Should listing photos be removed after the sale? Should listing photos be removed after the sale? Take off your real estate appraiser hat for just a second, okay? And you can kind of understand where this is coming from. But with your hat on, with your appraiser hat on specifically, you're going to say, no. Why? Because, let me back up for just a second. I had a crazy nostalgic experience yesterday. Okay. I was in a very rural Wyoming town. Now, this is a town that I have appraised in for 23 years. Okay. And about 20 years ago, so about, when I was just a young trainee or maybe just a barely licensed appraiser, I used to go to this town and there were 2 real estate offices. And part of the appraisal process was driving to this town, doing the inspection, and then I always had to schedule time to go to these 2 real estate offices after I'd done the inspection and spend literally hours, if you count both visits. Okay, so at least an hour and hours sometimes going through their sales books and making photocopies of the sales and then driving around afterwards and taking pictures with my 35 millimeter camera. Okay, and then going to the 1 hour photo to get them developed. That's the way appraisals used to be done. Okay, here's a funny thing. True story. Yesterday, because I had to pick up a key, I went back into this office today. It's been there forever. Okay. Same people in there, and I just have not been in this office for 15 years. And I walked in there, and all of a sudden this flood of memories started coming through of me standing there for, sometimes over an hour, photocopying books. And I turned around, and I looked over to where the books used to sit, the sold books. And lo and behold, they were still there. So now this town at least is on the MLS, right? But they still have the sold books. Oh, it was great. All right, so side note, right? Tangent, Dustin, tangent. Get back on the focus. The reason I bring this up is, folks, back then we didn't have interior photos. Okay? Back then it was, hey, John, you're the one that sold this property. Can you tell me a little bit about the condition? Oh, yeah, they fixed up a little bit of this, and they fixed up a little bit of that, and this part was a little bit shabby, and da-da-da-da. Then that's what we went with for our, quote, condition rating, right? Which, by the way, was either average or good. You never wanted to put fair on an appraisal, and maybe you'd go with excellent for a really nice place, right? All right. That's the way it used to be. Folks, the answer to the question on the board here from Realtor Magazine, should the listing photos be taken out after the sale? We're going to go back to the old times as appraisers, right? If I cannot tell you how I rely on interior photos all the time, all the time. In fact, part of the process in my office is that our data entry clerk will take the comps that I've chosen and enter them into the grid. Well, Dustin, I thought you used Data Master. I do. But unfortunately, of the 5 MLSs that I use, only one of them has Data Master. Okay? So on 4 of them, we got to hand put them in, and it sucks. Data Master's awesome. Putting in by hand sucks. Okay? But we do that. So they put them in, and they always leave the quality, and unless we've used the comp before, they always use the quality, or they leave the quality and the condition off. So I've got to now go in as I do the process, and I need to look at the definitions. I need to look at the data. I need to look at the interior photos, and I need to call the real estate agents and confirm, right? Find out what the condition is. But I rely very, very, very heavily on pictures. They say that pictures are worth 1,000 words, and they are. When it comes to real estate appraising, I might think something's a Q4, and all of a sudden I look at the pictures and go, oh, no, that's a Q3. Because I can almost virtually walk through the house, the sale. A place I've never been inside. Sure, I'll do a drive-by and take a picture, but I'm not going to be on the inside of that property. So why in the world is Realtor Magazine asking this question? Well, it has to do with safety. We'll have that discussion when we come back from the break. I want to first pause to remind you that we are sponsored by ANow Software. I use it every day, all day. Probably am in ANow Software 10, 15 times a day. And that's as a business owner, by the way. My office is in it 10 or 15 times an hour. I'm not kidding. It's constantly up. It's their go-to. It's their hub. It's their control center. And because it's their control center, it's my analytical tool. So I can watch everything that they're doing in real time. I can watch these orders being updated. I can watch me getting paid. I love that part. And it all happens in one place. It's ANow Software. ANow.com/coach is where you go. One more time, ANOW.com/coach. We're back, folks. We're talking today about should listing photos be removed after the sale? That's the question that Realtor Magazine is asking. Now, let me just read to you the first paragraph of this, okay? And it'll kind of set the tone of why this question's being asked. By the way, Realtor Magazine is not necessarily advocating that this is done. They're simply asking the question and getting the discussion going, and I'm doing the same here. I'd be curious as to what your feedback is. So the first paragraph reads this way. Some homeowners express concern that photos of their properties continue to live on real estate websites after they've closed on the purchase, and they're asking real estate professionals to help them take them down, citing privacy and security issues. In a column in Chicago's Pioneer Press, a buyer named Deborah wrote about her efforts to get the listing photos of her home removed after she bought it. Deborah says the selling agent refused her immediate request, saying another real estate companies like to see the photos and use them as comparables for appraisals. Ba-dum-bum. Okay, so here's the thing, folks. It is so important that appraisers understand what actually was sold, because that's the data that they use to value new real estate. And I think it's helpful not just to appraisers, but agents themselves, right? Everybody is kept in check that way. Now, we all know this term, at least the term that we use around my office is realtorese, right? Realtorese is the type of language that you see in listing advertisements, MLS data sheets, right? In fact, the other day on one of the Facebook pages, somebody posted a picture of a not flattering thing about a home and said, okay, if you were a realtor, how would you sell this, right? I mean, that's really what happens. Right? We see it all the time. You back up to Walmart, and where it might be a negative to an appraiser, the real estate agent, because they're a salesman, right, turns it around and says, close to shopping, right? Convenient. That's the type of thing that we see in Realtorese. But folks, if we only had that to rely on, would it be a problem? I think so. I told you the story about the sales books years ago. I mean, can you imagine just having the written data and no pictures other than maybe the exterior photo? I mean, we get that anyway. So helpful to have those interiors. So I want to start the discussion. So please jump on my website, go to podcast, comment. I would love to hear your discussion. What are your thoughts? Okay. From a homeowner's perspective, okay, let's get in their shoes for a little bit. From a real estate agent's perspective, and of course from an appraiser's perspective. Question on the table, should listing photos be removed after the sale? I'm going to go on record and say no, just because I'm very biased. I want them there, okay? But I certainly can understand the other side of the coin. Folks, please join me each and every month. We have a meeting where we get together, you, me, and successful appraisers across the country. It's interactive, it's live, it's in front of your computer, with your monitor, with your speakers, with your microphone, and yes, your webcam, and you have an opportunity to ask any question at all. It's my all-star team. Check it out. Go to the appraisercoach.com/memberships, appraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
A member of the NAR. Get your guns out, boys.